This is the Book Deal Podcast, a podcast all about inspiring and motivating writers,
where we interview seasoned and debut authors about their own writing, from the blank page to the book deal and beyond.
We hope these stories will help you to stay positive, focused, and carve your own path forward.
I'm Madeleine Cleary.
And I'm Tina Strong.
And this is the Book Deal Podcast. The Book Deal Podcast acknowledges the traditional owners of the land and waters which it's recorded on, and pays respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. Our second guest for the next iteration of the publishing deal is Caitlin Lawless. Caitlin is the Publicity Manager at New South, but she's also an editor and a writer herself, with over a decade of experience in the industry. Caitlin has worked on media campaigns for local and international authors, including Muriel Barbary, Val McDermid, Veronica Roth, Megan Davis, and Henry Reynolds. She's also worked for writers' festivals and for literary journals here in Australia and in the UK, is a fiction reader for Overland Journal, and is a co-founder of the Dinner Party Press event series and the micro journal Paragraph. Phew, she has done a lot. Caitlin and I first met as booksellers over a decade ago, and her passion for books and this industry has not changed one bit. So join Tina and I as we chat with Caitlin about persistence, overcoming shyness, crafting an author brand, and how authors can work well with their publicists. Caitlin Lawless, welcome to the Book Deal Podcast.
Hello.
We're so happy to have you here. And we're so excited because clearly you are someone with an absolute passion for this industry with lots of advice to give to aspiring authors. So I calculated and totaled up all the things that you've done in this industry. So you're a former bookseller, you're an editor, a writer yourself, you're a co-founder of Dinner Party Press, and now you are currently the Publicity Manager at New South, which is very exciting. So tell us, you must obviously have such a passion for this industry, but what drew you in?
Yeah, pretty much obsessed. I think naturally I just always loved books, which is a classic question. But I guess you kind of think you're going to go in one way to the industry or another, and my path has been kind of windy, and I think just like an author's path to publication, the path to finding your way in the publishing industry sometimes is a bit windy and chaotic. So that was me. I just studied English at uni, and then moved to that was in Adelaide. Then I moved to Melbourne and got a job at Dimix, which is where I met you.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I think as soon as I got that job, which was like to me like my biggest dream come true as a 22-year-old, I knew that this is just what I wanted to do forever, like whatever it was with books. I got into a publishing course at Melbourne RMIT, which was really good. And that gave me an insight into every facet of publishing, every department. And really I just loved everyone. Like I said that we had a 3-hour-long lecture on paper stock, and I was just there like writing notes like, oh my God, this is incredible.
And that course at RMIT, so many people have done that course. It seems to be very popular.
It's changed to a master's now. It was a grad dip. I'd say it was, compared to the Melbourne one, what I've heard, it was more practical. It was more like I did it while working full-time at the bookshop at night. So it was really like for people who were either already in the industry, or it really just set you up for getting a job. So most people by the end of the course had a job in the industry by the end of it, which was true for me. So I got my first job in editing, in educational publishing. And then, from there I volunteered a bunch of places. I worked for literary journals, went overseas for a bit. But that whole melting pot of seemingly random things ended up in being the perfect foundation for a publicist, which is also completely chaotic, which we'll talk about. And you need to have a knowledge of every bit of the industry really helps. And it also really helps in giving that advice to authors, which is a big part of the job.
Well, I love that story, Caitlin. How, the seemingly random, paths that you took to get where you are now. And I think that happens over time for a lot of people, even with the books that I'm writing now, my path was quite random, a lot of it, and sometimes quite unrelated, but it just actually provided the best background. So yeah, it's important. Do you think it's important to just sort of, if you have a passion, just throw yourself into whatever's available?
Yeah, I think saying yes to things and doing things that are scary, like going on a podcast. And that resilience and persistence, I think I've seen, like with my getting that foot in the door, it took years to get into trade publishing, for example, which is like the most comfortable, I guess, hardest place to get into in publishing. But yeah, if you keep trying, then eventually people will see that passion and it will come through. And that's the same with authors. I think I've also been in the industry for over 10 years. You see the path that authors who were starting out 10 years ago are now only just publishing their debut book. And you can see that it's just that persistence that led them there. And it's I guess heartening because it just shows that work does pay off in the end. And it's not unlikely, if you do put in that work, that you will get published.
Yeah, that's amazing, Caitlin. And like you said, it provided all this wonderful experience has now led you to be a publicist. And so I guess one question that a lot of people have, and myself included, is marketing and publicity. So they're often sort of referred to together, sometimes as the same thing, but they're quite different. Can you give us a bit of an explanation on to how they're different and what that means?
I would say basic answer is marketing is paid for, publicity is free. But now it's sort of, I can see there's the third prong to that, which is social media, digital, and even video now as it's kind of its own thing. So I would probably place that under marketing. And then the other thing to note is that in many publishing houses, they're interlinked. So New South, where I work, with I guess, small to medium publisher. So we have a quite a small publishing team where we work on both publicity and marketing, and you call that an integrated campaign. And then in the larger houses, sometimes it's connected, sometimes it's separated. And we're definitely in dialogue with each of the teams and the sales team as well constantly. So there's a lot of collaboration there. But yeah, the difference is marketing is stuff that you've got a budget for your book, and that's allocated to different sections of marketing. So there might be print ads, digital ads, paid spots on certain things. Catalogs is kind of sales and marketing connected. And then publicity is like your reviews, interviews, events, things that you're kind of pitching for and then getting for free.
That's interesting. Actually, I'm interested to know, when do you start working like on a campaign for an author's release? Because there's so many questions always going on, like, when should we meet with our publicity team? At what point will they come into our life and world?
Yeah, I guess I want to stress that every book is different, every publishing house is different, and every individual publicist's work style is different. Generally, there's timelines. Also, things come up in publicity that can throw off the timelines. So something big might happen and then you won't hear from someone for a while. But generally, I guess the publicist starts thinking about each title almost like a year out, because that's when, like at our publishing house, for example, we sit in on the acquisitions meeting. So we see it come through the contracts stage. So we know about the books. We start hearing the pitches coming, or like the elevator pitch for it. We start formulating who we think the audience will be for that book, and we get allocated the title quite early on. So I'd say 9 to 12 months out, we're thinking about it, but we're not necessarily in touch with the author then. Then after the publishing stage is sort of finished, then it's handed to the publicist. So you always kind of have a main point of contact. If it's not the publisher that you're talking to, then it moves on to the publicist. But yeah, there's no concrete time frame, but I would probably say about 6 months out, you would be in contact with them by now, or you would know kind of the process. And then 3 months out, you might have a more like detailed meeting with them. And then the closer it gets to publication, the more contacts you'll have.
Caitlin, what would you recommend in terms of how much should we be engaging with our publicist? Should we be checking in, or should we just wait and find out the plan when it comes?
I think definitely don't wait if you're feeling anxious. I think the most important thing an author can do is work on building that relationship with the publicist, while understanding that early on possibly their main concern is the books that are coming out at that point in time, but slowly building up that working relationship with them is really going to help the author's anxiety, and it's going to help with the publicist to pitch the book and you in the future. And that can be started quite early on, and it doesn't have to be extensive. I'd say you can send a check-in email, but keep it quite brief, where it's a short answer that you're going to get the answer to quite quickly, and then that's totally fine. But yeah, nothing wrong with checking in and allaying any anxieties or questions that you might have, and just getting a clearer sense of the timeline is a good tip if you're not sure. And in terms of what the author is allowed to do, which I think
Yes.
is something that comes up, or not like stepping on someone's toes, or you're not sure what they're doing compared with what you should be doing. That's where having that conversation early on is really helpful, where I see it as like definitely a partnership and a team effort, where if you work really well as a team together, that's going to get the best results. And it's not the author doing all the work because the publicist is too busy, but it's the author doing everything that they can do. So things that such as, I guess, finicky things like making sure you deliver author photos on time, or you send that author video back, or I don't know, you share all your contacts that you have with all the details that you have promptly. That leaves the publicist clear to do more high-level stuff that the author can't do. So they have access to different people that you might not have access to. So that leaves them clear for that more high-level stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So publicists, I know, are just so busy. Like you've got so many things to be doing all at once. That's all we hear, is that publicists are incredibly busy. So what does a day in the life of a publicist look like?
Yeah, it's hard to say, because it is kind of that's kind of a cliche. Every day is different. You wouldn't become a publicist if you didn't love that rapid fire, like things coming at you. We love to be busy. So it's not like everyone's there, breaking their backs and like really hating their jobs. It's like, this is what we love to do. So sending more things to the publicist, there's a balance where there's just enough. Like you don't go overboard, but sending more things through is kind of good. So day in the life, I would say you have to be across what's happening. So in the news, in the media, I subscribe to magazines on my library app. So I'm constantly checking that to see which books are being reviewed in like the women's magazines. We subscribe to the newspapers, so constantly reading the news. When we have time, listening to the radio. You have to kind of be up to date with what's happening, checking out who's programming different festivals. So that's just general every day. We're keeping on top of that. Then get to work, check immediate urgent emails. And then it could be anything from making a campaign plan. So sitting down, thinking about the audience for a book, who are you going to pitch to, where. There's writing media releases, which is thinking of hooks for the book, different themes, and then composing that and then sending it out to your contacts. There's meeting the authors, doing an author meeting. There's meeting festivals for a pitch meeting, attending acquisitions meetings, like I said. And then after work, you're heading out to events a lot of the time, not all the time. That's the fun part. Or booking flights for your author, and then or for yourself to go to festivals, accompanying authors to festivals. Yeah.
It sounds so glamorous, Caitlin, when you describe it.
It actually is. I think if I left Publicity, I would really miss the parties.
Yeah. I think I'm going to join Publicity if I can. That sounds awesome.
The free food.
Yeah, that sounds very glamorous. I didn't realize it was, although it was so broad. So obviously a big part of your job is working directly with the authors, and they are not the most sometimes outgoing of people, sometimes quite shy. How do you find that? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I guess on the outset, I would reveal that I'm the most shy person as well, and also anxious. And that doesn't mean it has to stop you from doing the things that is going to get your book noticed. Like, even though you're shy, you can still do radio interviews. You can still do events. And I see the publicist job is to be that cheerleader, to give them confidence and to say, you can do this. Even if you faff or stuff up, the most important thing is that you've done it, and you should feel proud of yourself. And also remind them that whatever media that you get, it's incredibly hard to get it. So if you do get it, you should be really appreciative of those people taking that time often to read your book and give you that space. But yeah, there's different levels of anxiety in authors, and I think that's something that I find really rewarding, is working on that relationship and getting to know that person as a person, and seeing how you can do I guess one of my main goals is finding out what the author really wants to achieve with their publicity campaign and helping them to get to that goal as well, beyond selling books. That's just the bonus at the end.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. And publicity can be, when you've got so authors out there, sometimes things can be quite controversial if someone's putting something. Is all publicity good publicity, or would you say there are some bad types of publicity as well?
There's definitely things you can say to put your foot in it. But that's another part that I love about being a publicist, is those challenges that come up and how you work with the author to solve those challenges, or you work with your publishing house to solve the challenges. I would just I kind of understand that authors are just humans, so they're not perfect, and it's about working on, I think, before they get out in front of the public, working on the messaging for the book to avoid those sorts of things happening. But in terms of good reviews, bad reviews, I would say creating a discussion is good publicity. So if there's a mix of good reviews and bad reviews, that's amazing. Love it.
Oh, that's a great thing to have, actually, Caitlin, because I think as authors, we're terrified of bad reviews. But from a publicist perspective, sparking the conversation is the important thing.
Yeah, I think I might be slightly jaded because the publicity landscape has it's sort of changed, where if you get a review in a paper and it's not just the blurb copy, that's incredible. So if someone has gone to the trouble to read the book and respond to it, and it's a proper review, even if it's negative, then usually I find authors will really appreciate it. And a lot of the time it's not complete like a panning, it's a balanced review. So they'll only see the negative, but it'll be all these positive things. And at the end, but they could have, they really should have done this. But the fact that they've had an in-depth look at your book, that's what should be rewarding to the author. And usually it is, I think.
That's awesome advice, because it's a great way to look at it. isn't it? Because, yeah, you can imagine it's going to happen. And yeah, it's good to be prepared for it and look at it that way.
It's really hard to distance yourself from it being personal, I know, as an author, but when you see it as a publicist, you can also see one really respected reviewer have a completely different opinion to another really respected reviewer. And you know, it's not the quality of the work, it's just their opinions. So
Yeah, personal preference, yeah.
that's good to keep in mind. Yeah.
One question that's been discussed a little bit through the debut cruise is to do with arcs. Because I think there's quite a few people at the stage where arcs are going out now. And just in regards to, is that something that Publicity does? Are they the ones going out there? Are you actually going out there? I think it's mostly for reviews. Is it for external reviews or mostly for endorsements for the book? How do you decide who gets one? How often do they respond back? Because I imagine they get a lot of them.
So ARCs are kind of for a number of different sections of the publishing house. So sales will get a bunch to send to the sales reps who will disseminate them to booksellers. Then you'll obviously get one to check over for proofing errors. And then Publicity will get a big chunk to send out for early review copies. And then another, prong is to send them out to influential people who are going to share it and kind of build that buzz. So we probably get, I won't say how many we get because it can differ. But when we are creating a publicity campaign, that's when we decide who the audience for the target audience for the book will be. And in thinking about that, that's how we allocate the arc. So you want a section to go to early radio, early reviewers, TV, just to get it across their desk, even if they don't respond. So you might not hear back from them if you're following up on whether or not they got it. But then 3 months later, they might see the book again, and that will trigger like, oh, I know that one. Okay, we'll book you. So yeah, you kind of send them out hoping for the best, and you never know where they'll end up. So it's always good to have a physical copy going out to people.
What publicity do you think sells the most books?
There are certain spots that lead to actions. So it might be if you're on ABC Conversations, that has such a wide reach, that might lead to more sales, for example, than a smaller radio show. But nothing is really, there's no real rules, and nothing is guaranteed. If you get into mainstream commercial spots, like on a really well-known, like the Shameless Book Club or something, that might lead to sales. But it's really about matching the book with the audience. If you're on a show and then the contents of the book doesn't really reach the viewers, then that's not really going to lead to sales, even though it's a really big show. So it's about a combination of where you're reaching people across the whole campaign. It's not really about the individual spots. But I will say more high-profile things probably have a bigger effect on booksellers who are ordering stock, because they can be more, they want a guarantee that book will sell through, and that kind of adds to the, that it's less of a risk if you've got you're locked in.
What's been one of some high-profile campaigns you've worked on, or what's been the most fun, perhaps?
Yeah, I think the most rewarding campaigns are the ones where you can see that snowball in effect. So last year I worked on Getting to Know the Birds in Your Neighborhood by Daryl Jones, the bird expert.
Fun.
And it's like this combination of, he's a brand name author that you've been building up for a number of years. The new book comes out. You've got a multi-city tour that's planned, and then you start planning the radio, and he's getting TV, and then you see it kind of snowball, and more requests come in. I think he was on, like one goal is to get national radio, national TV, like national coverage and then local coverage. And then you see that lead to more and more sales. And I think he was sending through the Booktopia, like it just going up and up the bestsellers list. And then I don't know, it's rewarding when you do see results of the campaign. And he's just a lovely guy.
I actually did a panel with Daryl Jones like 2 months ago. Yeah.
Was he wearing a bird shirt?
He was wearing a bird shirt, had gangs on the front. Yeah, but wasn't related to birds. It was related to koala overpasses over roads.
Oh, so. Yeah. Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
That's
I didn't
awesome.
realise that you worked with him. There you go.
Yeah, he's great. He's got another book coming out next year that I've just started working on the body copy for. So, I mean, the blurb stuff.
So do you have to become an expert in birds then, Caitlin?
I think that's the fun part is you do by osmosis become an expert in every, like I just did one on women aviators. So I've learned all this random stuff about paragliding and like speed skydiving and yeah, it's so fun. I love it.
Geez, what's the target market for women aviators when you're for publicity?
Rural women dreamers, I would say.
Oh, love that.
We want to escape their everyday life.
That's cool. That's awesome. So, Caitlin, this has been a little bit of the bane of all the authors' existence. We love social media, but we also sometimes despise social media. Yeah, we want to spend all our time writing, but we know that it's an important part of the business, of the brand, the author brand, and having a social media engaging with readers. And actually engaging with readers and writers is super fun, but it can often be a time suck as well. How important is social media and having a social media profile for publicity campaigns? Is it important? Is it needed? Does it sell more books, do you think?
I think what we always say is if it is authentic to the author and what they feel like they want to be doing, then that's when it's successful. And if it feels forced and you don't have a profile and you're trying to build one from scratch quickly, that's where it often doesn't work. You definitely sell more books if you have networks set up already there, be that online or through a Substack or personal networks. Yeah, I would say it's definitely not like being shy. You don't have to be gregarious to be a popular author. You don't have to change yourself to sell books. So yeah, I wouldn't break your back over it. But it's unavoidable that it helps more if you have people out there who you can go through your own networks to promote your book. Yeah.
No, that's good. So with Tina and I approaching this, that this is and Tina's going to go through this first. What would you say is what do we need to do to help you, I suppose? Yeah,
I think you're already doing a lot of stuff that I've noticed that is really excellent. I think keeping in mind that everyone does look people up as I think about publicity a lot as shorthand. You're pitching things and you have to translate things into shorthand where they're going to see this, this, and this, and they're going to say, okay, I want you for that festival. And part of that is, I would say, optimizing the content that you do put online, optimizing your branding or your imaging. So making sure your website looks professional if you've got one, even if it's just a landing page with an about me. And making sure you've got professional headshots that match the image that you want to put across to people in that split second that they're going to look at you and kind of know what kind of person you are.
And you can do that even without a publishing contract. Like if you're trying to, find a publisher for your manuscript, having that professional website I've heard is really helpful because everyone Googles everybody.
Yeah, and it's just that split second of I can trust that this person is going to come through with the goods and not be like difficult or it's going to be easy process for us because they've already done this, and this. Like nothing's essential, but this definitely helps. Your bio, I think Oh, one thing I did want to share, people hate endorsements on books. I find they're like, I don't get this. It's just stupid. It's all the same, like riveting, engaging. But the way I see endorsements or puff pieces or blurbs or whatever you like to call them, it's the shorthand. So it doesn't really matter what's in the content as long as it's glowing. It matters who it is, because that's what connects those people with your book. So it's, you know, what kind of book this is based on the people who are blurbing it. And it's the same with your bio, that they can see what kind of author you are based on where you've published before, which prizes you've won, that kind of thing.
Love that.
Yeah. So that's that was going to answer pretty much the question that I was going to ask next. In if you're not signed and you are an aspiring published author, what can you do to create, I guess, that profile or that, a little bit of, buzz about yourself, I guess, because it's really hard when you haven't got it, if you don't have a book or anything coming up yet to talk about or to promote. What can you do that's going to help?
Yeah, I think there's lots you can do, but I also love talking about that, creating your own buzz. And I think that's something also to remind authors not to be afraid of talking yourself up and talking about your book, especially when it's just about to come out. Don't be shy in tooting your own horn. Toot that horn.
I'm going to be so shy, but I will try.
Because you've got such a short amount of time to toot it.
Yeah.
And you should be so proud of yourselves. Just shout at them from the rooftops. But in terms of people starting out, I would always suggest working backwards. So find the authors that you want to emulate, or find that space that you want to be in, see what they've done, and then work backwards and build that community and that profile. Like, surround yourself with those people that you want to be near. So I think even just finding your local bookshop, your local festivals, spending time there, getting to know the people, and then submitting to those journals that you want to be in, applying for competitions, and then that is as soon as that kind of starts rolling, it's kind of similar to Publicity, then that will lead to more opportunities. You never know who you're going to meet at those things that will lead to a different opportunity down the path.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that's so true.
An excellent. Is that your top tip, Caitlin?
Oh, yeah. Chat to people.
That's fantastic. I think that's great.
I was just going to point out, it always comes back to sort of community, doesn't it? And building that community, which I know can sound really daunting, especially when you literally, you haven't even maybe put your work out anywhere. But I know, and you're both probably the same, that I find, and because we are all kind of shy, everyone's in the same boat, and everyone's just super supportive no matter what stage you're at. I go to writers groups and local writers events that are on, and there's people that are literally just starting to write, and there's people who have published multiple books, and they're all in the same room. And if they have published multiple books, they remember what that was like beforehand when they were just starting to write, and they're nothing but supportive. So that's going to be my top tip for today. I don't know if I've done this one before, but definitely to just join a group and don't be daunted, I think, and go and build that community.
And at the festivals, go to the parties.
Always helpful.
Authors always get invited to the best parties.
Yeah, because that's when everyone's loose. But I just want to, you mentioned something, about tooting your own horn, and that you should do it as much as possible because the time frame is short. What is that time frame? Is there an ideal sort of time beforehand in the lead up to do it? Or should you hold off completely until a particular point? And how long afterwards is like your golden moment?
You can't toot your horn continuously, can you?
I see people still tooting horns happening. I think if you like the person and you're following them, it doesn't phase, like it's not a big deal. I think you think it's such a big deal, but really it's like, oh great, that's that book again. And the more you see something on social media or anywhere, if you see it again and again and again, I know with the like ads that come up for whatever on Instagram, eventually you're like, I probably should buy that now. So in terms of time frame, there's when you have maybe a cover reveal, there's something that pinpoints it. So there'll be the publishing data will come up on the website. There'll be a pre-order button. Pre-orders definitely help with getting stock into bookshops. It's that kind of mitigating the risk. If there's lots of pre-orders, they're going to order stock in because they know it's going to sell through probably. So there's that stage where you can start to toot the horn. And then I would say probably 2 weeks out from pub date is when you would ramp it up. We don't like to do publicity in Australia. I think it's a bit different for fiction and non-fiction. Fiction, I'd say, has a longer kind of lead for building that hype to begin with, and then the book comes out. Whereas non-fiction, it's more news cycle based. So you kind of just want to wait until that moment where you're breaking the news of the book, and then you share it. Generally, you don't really want to toot it too hard if people can't physically buy it, because it's just frustrating for people. And not everyone wants to pre-order, especially with what's happened to Booktopia and stuff like that. But yeah, so I would say from 2 weeks out, and then the month of pub date is the big, like, go hardball, particularly the week of. Another thing to talk about is availability, making yourself available. Really, if you've got a full-time job, it's those first week or two that you want to be completely available in case things come up, interviews and events and things. But yeah, I think the general rule of thumb is 6 weeks. You get about 6 weeks and then it peters off, but things still happen.
Do you keep in touch with your authors after that 6-week period, or is it's just not as intense and it kind of flattens out a bit?
Yeah, I think it's based on what comes in. So if a review comes in, we'll let you know. If the book wins a prize, that we'll get back in touch. And we will send updates if something happens. And if you contact us, we'll still follow through with whatever, like, oh, I think I'd like to be submitted to this prize or something. We'll respond to that, but definitely peters off a bit after the 6 weeks. But
so authors don't have to feel worried that's a normal progression.
Yeah, but I get authors. I'm still chatting to authors from whose books came out last year, and some books, it depends on the book. So some books have a longer lead time, and other books are more flash in the pan, and they've had that moment and it will still sell, but you don't need to be constantly in contact. But yeah, never be afraid to email your publicist. But I would say just build that relationship with them at the start, and then you know if you're going to be annoying.
try and read the vibe that
and
you're
it's
getting
more
back.
like chatting to a friend. It's not anything else. So you can just text your friend all the time. So don't get too friendly.
Don't drop into the DMs.
Yeah.
So what can you do to get pre-orders? You know, like, we can post the link up on our socials. I guess, you know, if you have a newsletter and people have signed up for it, you can add it to that, send it to friends and family. How else do you get pre-orders? Because we've all heard pre-orders are so important. It goes towards your first week of sales, which then, you know, how your first week goes can, you know, determine quite a few other things about how you sit in charts and things like that. What can authors do to get pre-orders?
I think it's really tricky for authors because there is that pressure that is seemingly put on them. And I think it's important to understand it's not all on you and whether or not the book will be a success. It's the sales team's job. But I think that friends and family are the most important ones who will be most likely to pre-order, and where you're not really trying to hard sell them something by sending the link. It's like they'll appreciate the link. They'll probably want to know the link. You're just providing it to them. On your social media, it's hard. You don't really want to be linking people to buy all the time because you want to be your authentic self. But I think making sure that pre-order link is in your optimized content, so on your landing page, it's available there. It's clearly written pre-order. Where it is appropriate, you add the link pre-order.
So the sales team do pre-orders. They're working on pre-orders. So what are they doing even? Like who are they asking for pre-orders?
So when we share, it's, I guess, online social media marketing. Anytime we talk about the book, we link to the pre-order campaign. And then it's the sales team to sell to the book. They convince the buyers how much quantity they're getting in, like a couple months out. So they might be doing that 3 months out. And if you point to the pre-order campaign, then you can say, this is what we're doing to promote the book. That might help get more orders up. Because if the publisher's really behind a book, then the booksellers will be confident that it can sell.
Wow. Well, there's been so much here. I feel like I need to re-listen to this with a notebook because this is so, so helpful, Caitlin. And I know that our debut crew for next year are just going to love this. But it's also really interesting, I think, for writers who are starting out, just to have this in mind, like creating that authentic profile in advance rather than just seeing your profile as a way to sell books, because it probably won't work if it's not authentic.
So, Caitlin, you did mention festivals before as well. And so that was one of the questions that I had as well. And so did the debut crew, is how do we get on the program? What's the best way? What's the do's and don'ts?
Yeah, I think one thing that's sort of changed over the last couple of years is that there's just an abundance of festivals. There's your national ones, then there's regional ones, there's little boutique ones, there's special genre ones. There's so many. So at a publishing house, for us to pitch individually your title to every single one is unfeasible. But it's quite hard to get on the programs for the large ones. So it is often really good to target to your local audience, I would say. And so one thing that an author can do, I think, is find those festivals where you have a personal connection or a local connection. And I would say communicate to your publicist that you're going to, if you want to pitch to them yourself, that you're going to, and then, come in with a personalized pitch to those festivals. But the publisher will pitch to the main ones. So we usually do an individual pitch where we have our highlights, and then we go through each title and try and get on the program. And then the smaller ones, we send them a document that has the list, and we might not have that personal conversation about each title. And then the further you go down to the smaller ones, the less contact we'll have with them. So I definitely think authors have gotten on programs from pitching themselves to festivals, and particularly libraries as well. There's so many libraries, there's so many regional bookstores. Reaching out to any that you feel a personal connection to, or if you're going to be traveling to a certain place, let your publicist know, I'm going to be in this place. Is it okay if I pitch to this and this that I've found? And then that's usually really successful. And then what the publicist can do is, once you've got, say, a regional tour or a multi-library tour that you've organised yourself, then we can jump in and organise media around the tour. So it's that working together.
So the key there, I hear, is communication.
Yeah.
Yeah. So making sure everyone's well informed of what you're doing, because it sounds like there is opportunities for authors to pitch to those types of things themselves, as long as because I guess it provides that local, authentic self side of things, but making sure that you're keeping your publicist in the loop. Yeah.
And definitely for the more well-known places, I'd probably trust that the publisher has that covered, the high-level places.
Right, so don't just email randomly the director of the Sydney Writers Festival.
Yeah, that could annoy people. But the other thing is, what a lot of authors don't realise what happens behind the scenes. And people often get invited to festivals because they do personally know the person programming, or there is some sort of personal connection, and you think it's just random, but there's often strings that are getting pulled behind the scenes that you might not realise. So it's, it is so tricky to get onto the festival bill. So you shouldn't feel bad if you don't get on any, but yeah.
Fingers crossed. We'll try our best. Just to finish, did you have one single top tip that you want to leave our listeners with?
I think of your dream campaign and what you really want to get out of the experience, and treat it like a golden experience that you're so lucky to have, and communicate that with your team and say, I would really like this to happen, and put that wish into the world and just see what they can do, and know that the publishing team and the publicists are working their hardest, and put your trust in them that they really want you to succeed and they really want the book to sell, and they're doing everything they can to make it a bestseller. Fingers crossed.
Love that. That's a wonderful thing. Well, thank you so much, Caitlin. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Book Deal podcast. Please like, follow, or share this episode so we can encourage more aspiring authors.
And if you have a question you'd like us to answer or ask our guests, please find us on Instagram @thebookdeal or email us at thebookdeal@outlook.com.